Okay, everybody. Hey, how you doing? Redoing the video, a little better quality for you and whatnot. None of that really matters. The message is still the same. I'm gonna leave the other one there. I am gonna add a couple things that I didn't add yesterday. Run right into it, because just please watch it. And if you're asking people to be reasonable about waiting for all the facts to come out, I think you should also be reasonable about the protest situation and everything that's going on. Starting again, not to generalize, right? So when you say police, obviously there's good and bad police, it's just the facts. So when you say fuck the 12 or fuck the pigs and whatnot, and you don't make that distinction, it adds fuel to the fire. It's just what's gonna happen. When you say white people, there's good and bad white people, right? And us as African Americans, one of the things that we like to say is that you can't understand. I'm sorry, that's bullshit. Everybody can understand pain. Everybody knows pain when they see it. The question is how deep or how much are they gonna try to connect with you on it? And there has always been white people that walked hand in hand with black people. And that doesn't make them saints or anything, and that doesn't make you a saint or anything. It's just important to acknowledge that there's good and bad white people. And so when you say fuck the police or fuck white people, you're not helping the situation. In fact, you're hurting it. You're actively hurting it. Now, I get it. Anger and fear are not rational, but you do need to make this distinction. Like, none of us can escape making this distinction. Same thing with the protests that are going on. If you say thugs, if you call it a mob, you're not making the distinction. And not making the distinction labels off the group. It dismisses them. It makes them as part of this mass of just ridiculous people that you can write off because that's how you feel today. And that's the problem. Go with what you know, not just with what you feel, right? And this is important for the next point, right? Adding context. And so I'm not going to take away anything. I'm not taking away the other video. I'm just going to add a couple of things that I've thought about in the last 12 hours or so. We're just going to keep tacking on to it here. But, I think it's incredibly important to always look for context, okay? So if you think that black people are just hype off of whatever the media is giving them, I think you should take time to go and look at Tulsa, Oklahoma. There was a massacre that happened there many years ago, and it's going to lead into another point later. But I think if you look at that and you look at any mass gathering, right, of agitated people, if you do that, right, you will see that atrocities do occur. Okay, looting, fires, bomb, whatever you want to call it. This is just what people do. Does that make it acceptable? Absolutely not. Looting is not acceptable, right? But this is predictable. It's expected when you have a group of agitated people because, again, fear is not rational. Anger is not rational. Are you going to use that to decrease the importance of what has happened? And that is the problem that you've got to face. In fact, Tulsa's the huge example of it, but if you remember, lynching was a public affair. And have many of you asked yourself, what happened to the homes of the people that were lynched? What happened to the belongings of the people that were lynched? Looting is an issue. So there's a video that's going around, and part of the reason why I'm focusing on this a little bit is a video going around where I think her name is something Tabika, and she's tried to say that we learned the looting from you and whatever. And I'm like, this still does not justify the situation. In fact, if you watch a bad behavior and you saw its effects, you shouldn't repeat it, right? But again, for context, this does provide you with at least some aspect of, okay, people are pissed off, and when people are pissed off, this is what's going to happen. So the goal should be to avoid pissing or causing this kind of situation where you have a mass gathering of people who are really pissed off. And easier than it sounds, right? But it is something, it just, again, you know, always look for context, right? And that's the same thing with these protests. Keep in mind that there's agitators moving throughout the protests. There's even whispers of some foreign intervention, who knows? But everybody's adding rumors to rumors. But that's the point, actually. Because there's so much misinformation, don't have such strong feelings on it. Because you're not exactly sure who's doing what yet, right? Beware of humor. I did say this yesterday, but humor is one of the most potent tools of verbal combat, right? And so people will get you to laugh. And so there's some CNN memes out there, there's some Batman memes out there, there's some other memes out there that are being pumped to you to make you kind of laugh. And in a way, they ridicule the situation, but not enough to be like outright ridiculing it. And you have to understand that when somebody gets you to laugh at it, it's like a KO. It's like they got you to laugh at yourself. Right? And so they take some of the steam that's off of it. And that's the reason why humor is used the way that it is. You will notice that tactic with a lot of leaders that are currently there now. And it's just one of those things that people do, okay? But beware of it, because it will draw your focus away from what's important. It will draw your focus away from what people are trying to tell you. It will make you laugh at the situation. It will make you continue to think that this general mass of people is just ridiculous and there's no point to it, right? The looting and the shooting comment, I mentioned this in the last video, but to come back to it again, the looting, shooting is a quote, right? And this is important because who did Donald Trump choose to quote? It was Walter Headley and Eugene Bell Connor. In choosing to quote these people, okay, that's why that comment is inspiring so much oomph right now, okay? He chose to quote these people. The President of the United States in 2020 chose to quote these people. He could have said anything else. You could have been like, oh, wait, that's probably going to be misconstrued. He did not do that, all right? Now, here's the thing. I was having a conversation with a friend, and he tried to tell me, and this is what has been happening, and this is important. He said, oh, I don't think that Trump has that much foresight. I think he just said something because it rhymed. And I understand the intention of those words. It's like, I don't think he was intentionally trying to set fire to you guys. Like, no, I don't want to believe that. And I understand that. I do. There's a difference, though. That's placed in how you feel, right? Here's the thing. Which one's more accurate? That he accidentally steps into a quote of segregationists as president of the United States, who all of his tweets, by the way, are edited? Or he meant to do it, because that actually shows political prowess. That actually shows more that he's actually more qualified to be president, because every president in modern history, in any history whatsoever, you are a political leader, so you should know how to play the political field. So if anything, him doing this on purpose adds to the idea that he is actually capable of being president. But in the way that, and I told him this, and I know it kind of aggravated him. I'm not trying to aggravate you, but it's important for you to see this. The idea that maybe he didn't mean to do it is part of you still trying to sound Republican, sound Libertarian, sound Democrat, sound something. Now, if you acknowledge that he meant to do it, then you understand that, wow, okay, this is a political game that is being played in the middle of a crisis situation. Again, you should be able to understand why that's kind of like, that's not the best choice of words, it's not the best choice of action, it's not the best choice of anything. And that, you lose nothing by admitting you're still a Republican, you're still a Democrat, you're still whatever, Libertarian, whatever your particular leanings are, and if you like Trump, whatever, it doesn't mean that you have to entirely dislike him, you know? It may add fuel to some fire, but it's up to you which way that goes, you know? The point being, you lose nothing by admitting a problem with a statement. Calling in the flag, right? So, I went into this in the last one, but it's important, right? So, Colin, right? And I realized the irony in my last video when I said, you know what, Colin could be an ass, and then I brought up the example of the donkey. I wasn't trying to do that on purpose. I did say it. I'm not running from it. The point being, Colin isn't a saint. He's not, right? Colin is not a saint, and neither is anybody else. But just because somebody's not a saint or they aren't a perfect messenger doesn't mean that they can't tell you the truth. Your 5-year-old can tell you the truth. It's up to you whether you want to believe it or not. And they can tell you the truth today and then lie to you tomorrow. Does that make them any less of a human being? Absolutely not. But that's important because that's another thing with the generalizations and the context. I guess another word you could add up there next to police and thug and all these other things is symbols. Symbols sometimes a symbol is dynamic, right? And so today they work in your favor and tomorrow it does not, right? Confederate flag, for example. One day it meant one thing, and now, if you lived in the South during the Civil War, it meant one thing to you. Today, it definitely causes strife because it means different things to different people. So, Colin, not a perfect messenger, is the whole point of that. And that doesn't take away from the message, though. Because here's the thing, and I mentioned this yesterday, I'm going to go right back into it. I hope that you have gone to the Smithsonian website, reputable, they've been at it for hundreds of years. It is what it is. I didn't bring this up. It's not slant. This is no spin. Search full anthem. And instantly you will be able to acknowledge that you yourself and 99.9% of your compatriots do not know the full anthem. Because there is a verse that kind of dropped off. And I tried to research why it got dropped off. Pretty obviously it's an offensive verse, so I know somebody was like, we'll just go and skip right on over that, because I believe it's like the third verse, it's like in the middle of it, but you're just gonna skim over that. And by the way, that's important in all this generalization and context, and don't skim over the idea of what started the protest to go straight, oh, look at these looting, look at these thugs, look at the violence. They're always violent, right? Don't skim over all of that. Look at everything. Add everything into the equation. It's harder, it takes longer. For some people, it's boring, whatever. Just do it. Flip the switch in your brain and do it. Do it because this is a complex situation and it keeps happening. You do gotta admit that. I don't care whether you're white, black, alien, whatever. It keeps happening. And so if it keeps happening, allow yourself to look at it a little more deeply this time, right? 99.9% of people don't know the full anthem. And so for you to be pissed off at somebody, quote unquote, disrespecting the anthem or the flag, then I think you should acknowledge you yourself have a problem, right? And if you knew that and you weren't singing it, again, you still have a problem. So the second thing, that's number one, right? The second thing is a gentleman by the name of Nate Boyer. Okay? Nate Boyer is an ex-Green Beret. He is a soldier, just as valid as your brother, your grandmother, your grandfather, whoever else that you know that served. My brother who served, okay? He is a soldier. He is the individual that suggested to Colin Kaepernick that he should kneel. That did not happen by accident. A soldier suggested that he should kneel because he saw Colin Kaepernick sitting. And he said, you know what, I feel like that's disrespectful. I think if you kneel, it shows more respect. But then all of y'all got suckered in by the media pundits and Donald Trump himself when he turns around and says, this is unpatriotic, right? And this is a disgrace to our soldiers. This is a disgrace to all this other stuff. How many of you took the time to go and check that out? And I mean, to be fair, the media did put it out there. They interviewed Nate Boyer a few times and all of this stuff. Nobody was really listening to that. And I'm bringing this back up because it's been circulating in a bunch of memes, as you guys have seen, and obviously there's the police officers around the country that also decided to kneel. I need you to understand that this came about from a soldier who's just as valid as any of your family members who were soldiers, and just like my family member who was a soldier. All right? And the third thing that we should bring about is the unpatriotic, right? If you work at a job, and I said this yesterday, if you work at a job and you have if you own a business, right? And somebody who you decided to hire comes in, and every day he sees a problem, he develops solutions for it, he suggests different ways that you could deal with it, how it could be better, how we could raise sales, how we could raise our media presence, how we could do all of these things. You're gonna be like, wow, this is an awesome employee. I'm gonna give you more money. I'm gonna give you more responsibilities. I'm gonna allow you to take on more roles because you've shown yourself capable, right? And so, as a citizen of a country, right, would it not be prudent to say the most patriotic thing that you could do is when you see problems in your community, in your country, you take action to try to solve it? There's nothing unpatriotic about that at all, but they've suckered you into it and you fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker, some of you. And you can't do that. That's the problem. You really cannot do that. And that is the reason why all this stuff has so much fuzz on it. And I understand that this is hard to take, but please, if you see it, this has nothing to do with me being black. I just happen to be the person explaining this to you right now, but that has nothing to do with it. These are facts. Do you know the full anthem? That's on you. Nate Boyer, a white gentleman, by the way, ex-Green Beret, valid soldier, served the country and everything, is the one who suggested he should kneel. Again, has nothing to do with the fact that I'm black. I'm just highlighting it for you at the moment. Unpatriotic, what I just said, you can't disagree with. I have yet to find a human being that can disagree with that statement. Because it's like, well, I would obviously want and hire and continue to look for people who would try to fix problems and develop solutions, right? And so, number 4, right? You're like, football player, and I said this to you yesterday, they suckered you into this again, and it is seriously one of the most racist things that they suckered you into. And this is the reason why, be careful. Like, if you have a role model, if you have a person that you look up to, a person that you admire, never give them carte blanche, okay? And I said this yesterday, I'm gonna repeat it to you again. The media pundits, Donald Trump, any political leader, right? And I told you yesterday, I actually like some things that Trump has done, which I know, caps flack, whatever, don't care. The point being, you have to acknowledge, I'm compartmentalizing each thing because everybody is complex, right? People have good things about them and they have bad things about them. It takes longer to think that way rather than just categorizing, oh, he's all bad or he's all good, right? Here's the important thing to realize that you got suckered in, and you got suckered in not by accident. Sean Hannity, Ben Shapiro, the guy who does Change My Mind, Jimmy Fallon, what's the dude on HBO? They're all escaping me right now. All of these people have teams that are paid, okay? Paid to do media focus groups, right? They have people or they do it themselves. But their goal is to garner ratings, okay? Their goal is to garner a following. Their goal is to garner your attention, okay? So they're gonna say whatever will fit that description so that they can gain more followers out of their target audience. They are not your friend. They are not doing anything to benefit you. They are looking to make money. This is important. I am really trying to highlight this. This doesn't mean that they can't go open a charity or something like that. Doesn't mean that there aren't good parts to them and bad parts to them. I just say keep that in mind, that this isn't just some off the dome thing that they're out here doing to you. This is their job. They are paid to stir you up, to get you to follow them and to keep watching them. So these pundits told you that because he's a football player, he's a millionaire, right? And because he's a millionaire, he should keep quiet, right? You should have a problem with that statement. As I mentioned to you yesterday, again, you lose nothing. You're still Republican, Libertarian, Democrat, whatever. Doesn't matter. You lose nothing, but you should instantly see a problem with this. Because what they were suggesting to you and what made this racist, what made this a problem, is they were suggesting to you that all of this means he's being paid to keep quiet. Obviously, that shit was not in the contract. That's a fact. We all know this. Nobody that goes to work in any job anywhere in America feels like they are paid to keep quiet. You better tack that in and add the extra bonus every day that I show up, because it's not in there. You didn't sign up for that. Nobody signed up for that. So don't hold a football player, a CEO of a company, any one of those people to that standard when you yourself are not holding yourself to that standard. That's just ridiculous. And that's the reason why it's racist. That's the reason why it's a problem. Okay? They suckered you into it. It's not you. It's the media pundits. They suckered you into it. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Now, other thing that you should see here is if you are paying somebody to keep quiet, okay, even if you want to agree with this statement, then you are admitting a wrong. So you shouldn't agree with it. Anytime anybody spills this to you, reject it with a passion, because it's a game and they suckered you into it. And I mean, on the one hand, it was brilliant. It has caused such a dramatic response. It was brilliant, but it was so it's diabolically evil. If I could attribute something to the actual devil that walks between us, that would be one of those statements. Because it's just not, and hopefully you see that, because that's just, no, it's, nobody's paying you to keep quiet. And if you are, then you're admitting wrong, right? I already discussed it. Fear is not rational. Anger is not rational. And so while it's not okay for people to loot, understand that it is a predictable behavior. Even after your favorite team wins, you're agitated because a man died, many of these other things. So it is incredibly important to take that in context, okay? And my friend said that the Boston Tea Party was different because it had a specific target. And what I tried to counter him with, and I hope he understands, is that this whole protest has a very specific message. It always had. The message never changed. They said justice, right? No justice, no peace. And then they yell some other stuff, not all that you can agree with. But the one thing everybody around the country is saying is no justice, no peace. The message is justice. You choosing to focus on the looting, which is being done by a small group of people, should highlight to you your own leaning in the situation, which is, again, not taking everything into context, not taking it into, and making generalizations, right? Because as far as Britain was concerned, during the Boston Tea Party, they were looters, you know? And I think he mentioned that they replaced the padlock. You're not gonna tell me it was all saints in that group, right? It's just not true. It's not real. But this is the way that we like to re-envision things. It's just not accurate. It's not accurate, okay? So, and you're not gonna tell me somebody didn't take any China tips home. Like, stop playing. You know it, I know it. I'm not even trying to play around with it. It's human nature. You know to expect it, right? Doesn't justify it, but you know to expect it. And because you know to expect it, that should figure into your context before you go blasting off and dismissing a whole group based on that. So I spoke about this yesterday, and this is part of what I think most people should be able to get behind, because it's real and it's something that needs to be done. I mentioned the show Mindhunters, but as I'm not familiar with the premise, let me leave that one alone. But there has never been a reconciliation focus on the group that arguably seemed most responsible for the grievances towards African Americans in the 20th century. So, and that group obviously is the KKK, right? Now the KKK never fully unmasked. And because this group was never fully unmasked, we have not come full circle. We have not addressed all of the issues that they created. How many people were lynched? We don't know who did it, right? We know the town that it happened in, and we know that thousands of people were sometimes involved, but we don't really know the instigators, the people that actually drag these people along. And this part is incredibly important. We will never find that out unless people decide to snitch on themselves. Because there are people alive today that were involved in every lynching, in burning Tulsa, random black killings. These people are not dead and gone. This stuff has been happening, and even if you were born in the 1930s, you're 80-something now, you know? They're still finding people that did stuff in World War II. Like, this is not old history. I mean, it feels like that to some people, but put things in context again. I mean, the Civil Rights Act was 1965. You would be 55 years old today if you were born then. Your daddy's still alive. Maybe his daddy's still alive. Like, the people who did these atrocious things are still alive. They were never fully unmasked. And the important thing for you to realize is that they were part of the social infrastructure. Right? And being part of the social infrastructure, they were police chiefs. They were senators. They were pastors. They were commissioners. Yeah. And they were neighbors. Right? So, these people were never fully unmasked. And, you know, the media would like you to believe, not all of the media, but some people would like you to believe that the group is so splintered now and it doesn't really have as much influence as it used to have and whatnot. These people were never unmasked. You don't know who they were, right? And because you don't know who they were, can you say with certainty that they are gone? Can you say with certainty that they are not currently out here delivering bricks? You know, I'm not saying they did. I'm just saying you don't know who did. I don't know who did until they figure out who did. And if they can't figure out, we may never know who did it, right? And so all of this is this is part of that context thing that I was telling you. All of this is adding fuel to the fire. And you should be fully aware of this, right? Because I mean, this group was white, so I'm not trying to generalize, but clearly this group was white people. And so some of the white people that are out here, if you really want to be an ally, you might find out that your family member was part of this, right? The question is, are you going to be able to snitch on yourself, right? And not on yourself, but on them, right? Are you going to be willing to help unmask these people, right? But if you just wish it away, clearly it's not gone. I mean, whether you like him or dislike him, you know, Cuomo said it, you know, Rodney King was, 30 years ago? Yeah, here we are again, right? And even my peers, you know, are like, does this actually change anything? And part of the reason why you see the violence escalating is because at the very least, one thing is that the next generation always learns from the previous generation. And as far as they're concerned, peace didn't accomplish anything for them. As a matter of fact, I saw a few tweets about this that were like, y'all killed Martin Luther King. You can tell me he's this, that, and the third, but y'all killed him. You killed Malcolm X too. So what really changed? You know, you put them on a pedestal, but then you're still doing this stuff, right? Now, that's why that unmasking who's involved and doing what, I think, is incredibly important, because they may be the people that are still messing with us today. And that's not just a theory. There is a very, very important thing to acknowledge, right? And I'm gonna spend some time writing these names out. I said them yesterday, but today, the new version of the KKK is white supremacists, okay? And it's interesting to note, Dylan Roof, and I'm just gonna put up a couple of examples here for you. William Fears, and Connor Climo, and Joshua Luff, okay? These are just some of the recent individuals, and you can type it into Google, like I said yesterday, igniting a race war, okay? Now, take your time to really look through this, and you will see that situations have been ramping up. There was a guy who was arrested trying to bomb an airport. There's clearly Christchurch. Killings, all of these individuals in their manifestos, in their messages and whatnot, they hoped to ignite a race war. Is what they wanted to do. So, because you yourself maybe feel like, no, I'm fine with black people, I'm fine with Asians, I'm fine with whoever, that's fine. But you have some people who look like you, who are actively trying to do this, right? There are some spaces that you can get into that no black person can, right? And not all of you, but the people who are sort of close to this should have an idea that, hey, this is a problem and we need to stop these people, right? And remember, KKK was never fully unmasked. We don't know how many of them are in this group, okay? We don't know their positions. Yeah, if you think about it in terms of a war, you don't know their positions, you don't know their power, you don't know much about them, right? And you don't know their capabilities. But you're beginning to see some of the effect of them now. And so if you take this into context with everything that I've said, we do have a problem on our hands. And it is right to ask your leaders, your government, like, hey, where are we on this? Because if you don't nip this in the bud, this is a problem. And it is a problem for these guys too, you see, because these guys are focused on an element of time. Because the only population they care about is other white people. And they feel that by, 2050, that they will lose population control because we're all supposed to be a little bit more mixed by then. And so in hopes of staving that off and keeping a white oasis, so to speak, they are trying to ignite this now. For you to say that that has nothing to do with you, I mean, it's just not accurate. It has a lot to do with me, but it definitely has something to do with you, because they believe they are doing this on your behalf as a white individual, right? And so I understand how you want to believe that it has nothing to do with you, but that is their reasoning, right? So it's important for both of us, in order for them not to have anything to do with you, that we get rid of them, right? Now, getting rid of them isn't by talk of violence per se, isn't by talk of deleting them off the internet. Like, no, they're telling you who they are. You know, they're telling you who they are. You can now engage them. You can figure out who their friends are. You can become more prepared. They are telling you who they are. Allow them on every platform. Absolutely. I want to know exactly where they are, right? Because I can then differentiate them from you. The good versus the bad, I can differentiate them if I can see them. If I can't see them, then it creates, again, this cluster that we're all dealing with. This whole situation of uncertainty that is created because these people were never fully unmasked. Right? And that right there, you lose nothing. It doesn't make you less of a Republican. It doesn't make you less of a libertarian. It doesn't make you less of a Democrat. It doesn't make you less of a white person. It doesn't make you less of anything to realize this problem, this logic. If you don't want death and violence for idiotic reasons, we should all be on the same page here. We should all be on the same page here. Does that mean that black people are saints and anything they do is justified? Absolutely not. No. But the whole point is, if we don't address this, we're all going to be dealing with something that is entirely tragic, right? And I mean, that's why black people, you better be armed, like, not to start a war, but you need to be ready to defend yourself because you don't know where these people are. You can't just sit tight, you know? So that agitation, though, that fear is on both sides, and fear is not rational. And then something's going to happen, and the anger that results from that is not going to be rational. That's what I got for you. Like, to do better, we gotta deal with this. To do better, we all have to address the problems in our communities. Black people, we do have a lot of problems in our communities. We do need to fix those. But I would say to the people who like to always highlight those, remember, those aren't happening in isolation. Because if let's say you believe that crime is in our backyard, drugs is in our backyard, killing each other is in our backyard, got it. This is in your backyard. Right? So I'm gonna, and this, you know, I've been feeling it for a while. I'm gonna work hard to tackle my backyard. I need your help to tackle your backyard. And then we'll all be good. My grass won't come into your grass, and your grass won't come into my grass, etc., 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 etc. Thank you for listening. And sorry for the quality of the original video. Not that that matters, but, you know, it's something to think about. Please look these things up. You'll see it for yourself. This isn't slant. This isn't tilt. This is logic. And don't get dragged along by these pundits on either side who are paid to stir you up, who are paid to, they just want you to feel. They don't want you to know anything. They just want you to feel and be irrational. And then when it comes time to make a decision, they've pumped you up in one direction or the other. And this is, I was explaining this to my brother. This is very important because, you know, if you think about the white supremacists, they're like commandos, okay? And say this is a war. Say we are in a race war, right? What you want to ignite is the good white people versus the bad white people, because you can win that one, right? But if it starts to become a race war and you don't know who is where, you have no idea who your enemy is, and you just start launching off in every direction, everybody's going to be affected. And it's important because it would be like, let's say the white supremacists are like commandos, right? Actually, we can do this. So, and this is a compound of peace, coexistence. This is off the dome, so forgive me and figure out a better whatever, anyway. But these commandos, they want to attack this concept. So they decided to position their troops here, 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 right? If they choose to set fire, ignite, they're forcing you in these directions. Do you want, and this is why you've got to deal with the problem, do you want these people to dictate what's going to happen when this gets shaken? No. This is why you've got to deal with it now. That's why we've all got to deal with it now. And because we don't, if we don't, that's what's going to happen. And if both sides stay just pumped up on feelings and ignorance, right? We're in our box, we're good to go, everything should be all right. I don't believe these people have any influence and yada yada. Meanwhile, they've set up positions. Then you're going to be, and let's say they block off here, right? And all you have over here is a cliff. Understand? Like, there's cliff over here, there's an oasis over here, right? So don't let them block you off. Don't let them create the situation that forces you into position. And for once, you be an individual, and as a Republican, you don't have to agree with Donald Trump every time. As a libertarian, you don't have to agree with libertarians all the time. And make that, in a group where it's hardest, do that, because if you saw the video, right? If you were one of those cops, you'd be like, you know what, I think we're good. Let's get our knee off of it, right? Nobody did it. And because they didn't, they all got fired. Now, should they have been fired? You can ask yourself those questions, but the deal is, even if you believe that it was a mistake, right? And this is something that is incredibly important. And I said this in the last video, even if you believe that George Floyd was a mistake. Wow, this is not happening right now. So even if you believe that George Floyd, this is irritating, whatever. Even if you believe that George Floyd was a mistake, okay? Do you want to be under that knee of mistake? That's what I said to you yesterday, right? Do you want to be the wrong house like Breonna Taylor? You are willing to do whatever it takes not to go out like that. And I said that yesterday, like, you do not want to go out like that. And that is the theme of all of this protest and everything else. I don't want to go out like that. Nobody wants to go out like that. You don't want to go out because it was an accident. You don't want to go out because something could have been trained or double checked better. This is life. This is life that we're talking about. And you don't want it to end unnecessarily if you're an empathetic human being. So that's it. That's all I've got for you. Thank you.